The Leprechaun Under the Bed, written by Mrs. Teresa Bateman and illustrated by Paul Mazel. Just in time for St. Patrick's Day come. This fun read, a long book featuring a leprechaun. What's a leprechaun, you asked it. Leprechaun is a small Irish fairy. He dresses like a shoemaker, and in our story, he's named Brian O'Shea. Are you interested to hear more? Great, but before we get started, let me give a big shout out to Caden. Thank you, Caden, for becoming a Read Along Book Club member. All right, are you ready for today's story? Let's get started. Brian O'Shea enjoyed his privacy. Leprechaun can be alone without being lonely, he liked to say. Indeed he would. No, for he made a snug home beneath that ground in an out-of-the-way spot. But time went on. Big, tall human people moved nearer and nearer until one day a man named Cian MacDonald started building a stone cottage right overhead. Brian tried leprechaun magic to stop Cian. He made see headless ghosts and even a banshee rising from the foundation stones of his new cottage. Mom, what is planned backfired. It's just my sainted mother always told me, Cian declared in delight. The land of Ireland is full of magic and surprises. All too soon, a fine cottage stood over Brian's home, so he built a door under Cian's bed. On moonlit nights, Brian would cobble outside. When it rained, he worked under Cian's bed, deliberately disturbing the man's sleep. Yet he didn't wish to be discovered, so if Cian moved, Brian would whisper, "Now, don't you be frightened, your weak little head. It's only the cat under the bed." After a week of restless nights, Cian decided he had to know why he wasn't sleeping well. He went to bed as usual. But though his eyes were closed, his ears were open. At midnight, the tapping began, and Cian sat bolt upright. "Now, don't you be threatened, your weak little head. It's only the cat under the bed," he heard from below. Of course the cat." Cian yawned, settling back under the covers. Then his eyes flew open. "I don't have a cat," thought, "and even if I did, whoever heard of a talking cat?" So what was under the bed? The answer popped into his head. Cian smiled. His mother had always said that a leprechaun in the house was a fine piece of luck he couldn't afford to lose. The next morning, Cian made stir about for breakfast and placed a bowl under the bed for the cat. At lunch, the bowl was empty, so he put in some stew from that day on. Every time he filled his own plate, he added a bit to the bowl under the bed. Cian was a hard-working man, but a small farm produced barely enough. Times grew hard, and at times grew harder, until there came a day when Cian went to bed with both his stomach and the bowl empty. The next morning, a cold coin gleamed in the middle of the kitchen table. What a blessing it is to have a cat in the house, he remarked aloud before hurrying out to buy good food. They lived well for weeks on that coin. But soon the cover was bare again, and another gold coin appeared. Consider this. Alone, Scene said, until times are better. Thank you, cat. But when Cian went to buy his oatmeal and potatoes, there was more than one. Eyebrow raised in the village, a poor man might have saved one gold coin for hard times but two. Gossip ran like water through fingers, and as it spread, it grew. Scene MacDonald must have a whole chest of gold coin hidden in his cottage. What many tongues say, be it true or not? Many ears hear. Two robbers caught wind of the tale and decided that no one deserved Cian's gossip cold more than they did. One crisp, dry morning they hid outside, waiting for Cian to leave. Then they slipped into his cottage, tossed the cupboards and pried stones out of the fireplace. Such a clatter made Brian poked his head up from under the bed. He was shocked at what he saw, but what happened next was worse. The cottage door swung open as Cian returned for a forgotten tool. In no more time than it takes to tell, the robbers tied the poor man to a chair. Tell us where you've hidden the gold, they bellowed, fearing for Cian's safety. Brian banged his hammer against the floor to catch the robbers' attention. Hey, now, what's that? One of the men asked. Fearing for Brian's safety, Cian spoke. Quickly now, don't you be frightened, your wee little head. It's only the cat under the bed. The man replied, well, the bed's the only place we haven't looked, as Cian worried. Brian grinned. Both robbers stuck their heads under the bed, and there they saw exactly what Brian had told them, a cat. But this was a wild cat, eyes like lightning and claws like knives. The cat smiled at the robbers, then licked its lips and found the sight of them tasty. With a shriek, the men tumbled backward, then fled as if the devil himself were at their heels. Brian laughed till tears ran down his cheeks. Cian chuckled as well as he wiggled free from the rope. Then he stretched and bowed in the direction of his pillow. 'Tis the grand thing indeed, having a cat beneath the bed, he declared. I replied at voice from below, and it's a pleasure having a friend above it. And they lived well and happily for them rest of their days. That's a nice ending. Did you enjoy the story, and were you able to read along? You can find this book and many others at your local library, or click in the link in the description if you're a fan of read along books and want to become a club member. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss our weekly uploads. Until next time.